Hello and welcome back to SuperCoach Edge, and we are officially 25 days out from the start of the BBL season and a new BBL SuperCoach season. So I'm super amped, and hopefully you are too. And in this episode, we will be covering some of the better value players alongside those ever important cash cows, some of which can fall actually into both categories as on-field cash cows. Of course, if you have missed our previous episode where we kicked things off our line of BBL SuperCoach videos to follow heading into the BBL SuperCoach season, we did so with a look at my initial starting side, so be sure to check that out if you haven't already. And if you like our videos, of course, give us a thumbs up and give us a subscribe as well. That is super awesome, because heading into the AFL season, but at the conclusion of the season, we are looking to hit the 1K subscriber mark, and we'll be doing a nice little giveaway as well for that. So if you can help us on our way, that is always awesome. So let's start things off by, I guess, for those newbies to BBL SuperCoach and probably SuperCoach in general, the question is, why are value players important? Well, much like in AFL SuperCoach or even NRL SuperCoach, formulating a starting team where you can pinpoint value players allows you the extra, dollary dues to spend up and grab a more assured gun in another position, which is crucial. Likewise, starting with the best cash cows that can appreciate in cash early is crucial in building enough bank for you to upgrade and strengthen your team across the journey. Break-evens are always relevant here, but even more so when it comes to BBL SuperCoach, where we have to factor in the multi-game rounds, which is something that we haven't really dealt with in either AFL or NRL SuperCoach. Of course, there are the bye rounds, which are thrown into the mix here in BBL, but the multi-game rounds really is where it's at, and you need to follow that. And really, like I said in the previous video, you need to be 2 steps ahead, thinking about who's coming into your side and who's going out, because these multi-game rounds really do, they pack a punch, and they are super, super important. But now let's kick things off with the first, I guess you could probably call him a cash cow, but probably more so a value player, and probably one of the biggest bargains to start the season. And it is this man right here on screen. Let me just switch it across. You'll see this is my team here, of course, and it is Ben McDermott, priced at $88,000. And I say he's a bargain because he comes in priced 120k odd cheaper than his starting price of the season prior. And as we touched on in my team reveal video, the big hitter had a rather lean run with the bat last season, averaging just 28.4. And that's probably a big reason as to why he is at such a cheap price point this season. You can see the breakdown in stats there on screen. And even though the Canes don't have a double this season until round 7, he is the sort of high risk, high reward player that can really do payoff. And at such a low price point, playing off the bench where you can potentially loop his score on field as well, the risk here is quite low, and he is most definitely worth a punt, really. And he's the sort of player that can really hit a big score on any given day. And if he was to do so, he could really kickstart his cash generation. As you can see there, a break-even of just 28 to start the season. So there is a fair chance that he could get that. Unfortunately, he won't get the gloves, you won't think, because Matty Wade, when he is playing, Matty Wade does get he's the first choice gloveman, and McDermott is sort of the backup gloveman. But nonetheless, if McDermott can start the season on fire, he is definitely a cash cow that you'd love to have. And as I said, someone that you could potentially, if you can swing some moves, nab his score on field. So let's move on to the next player we've got listed down here as a big value player, and it's someone we spoke of in the previous episode, of course, because he is in my team, and it is Josh Philippe. So he's got a break-even of 65 coming into the season, and he has a round 1 double. So last season was more of a bust than a boom batter that he is most renowned for, and that season starting at an 80k odd discount on his starting price the season prior. Historically, he's one of the better SuperCoach players in the game, finishing as the 6th, 3rd, and 9th highest scorer overall in 3 seasons prior to last year. So he does present extreme value at this price point, And I'll just roll through so you can see that visually. So going back to the 2018-2019, he was only 25th. But then 2019-2020 was the 9th highest scoring player. 2020-21, as you can see there, 3rd highest. 21-22, he was the 6th. So really have a look at this yourself as well. If you haven't yet formulated your team, just have a look at the breakdown in his scoring. Look at the amount of runs that he was getting in 21 and 22 in that season: 88, 72, 99, 23. He didn't really have a lean run that season. Really, really good. Obviously finishing high up there in the top 10. But as you can see, he can hit a sizable score on his day. And then when he's obviously the wicket keeper as well for the Sixers, so it can really, it builds that, the nice floor for him, just knowing the fact that he's going to take at least 1 or 2 grabs a game as the wicket keeper. And as you can see there, in terms of catches, they're valuable points. 10 points a catch, so super, super handy. So he is someone that should be in a majority of people's sides to start the season. The fact that he's got the round 1 double, it's virtually a no-brainer. So I'd be considering him very much so. Let's move on to another guy that I've since brought into my team from, compared to when I ran through my initial team lineup in the previous video. Again, if you haven't seen that, go and check that out. But there's only a couple of changes here. And like I've said, there's going to be many more changes to come. So hence the reason why there are a couple of new players here compared to when I did the team reveal video. So that man is Whiteman, and it is Sam Whiteman. So he's got a break even of 40 coming into the season, and of course for the Scorchers has that round 1 double. So he made his return to the Scorchers after a stint at the Thunder, and Bancroft is of course now at the Thunder. Now the thing with Whiteman is the fact that he could play early and take the gloves from Inglis, who of course is the first choice wicketkeeper, if Inglis is selected in the Aussie side to start the season. So keep that in mind as well. But if Inglis is playing for the Aussie team, Whiteman's virtually going to come in and, take those gloves and be an almost must-buy cash cow as a top-order batsman, as well as a wicket-keeper on the double first up. So he is someone that a lot of people should be looking at. In this spot here, I previously had McGurk. I had Jake Fraser-McGurk, but the one thing with McGurk that I mentioned in my team unveiling is the fact that I'm not sure that he's going to get a game first up, and even if he does, may not bat top order. It limits his point scoring ability. And even though he is pretty good fielding wise, can get a catch here or there, you do need them to really build a nice scoreline with the bat if they're not bowling. And McGurk, unfortunately, being a batsman only, is limited in terms of his output. So for that, and looking at Whiteman as the exact same price point, I think Whiteman presents the more upside there. Alrighty, so let's move on to the next player who I haven't got in my team here, but it is someone that you should consider and look at very, very closely, of course, and it is Josh Brown. So he tore onto the BBL scene, smashing 62 from 23 balls on debut last season, but went cheaply in a few matches, reminding us all of the ride or die aspect of straight batters in BBL SuperCoach. But that aside, at 88k and a triple game round first up, there is potential for him to make valuable dollars on the bench as a cash cow. But the question remains is, of course, as a pure batsman, he'll need some solid knocks in order to eclipse his break-even, which going to the season is a big 85. So I'll just have a look at the breakdown here for you in terms of how he scored. And as you can see there, 62 from 25 balls, 62 from 23 balls, but a strike rate bonus of 25. But outside of that, he had a couple of okay knocks. But aside from that, he scored a 5, a 4, a 9, an 18. So he's the sort of player that's a boom or bust. And as we know, as a straight batsman, that's the sort of risk that you take. But I guess at his price point at 88.6k, he wouldn't be someone that I'd have on field, which is kind of strange to say considering that the Heat have a triple game first up. But again, there's no guarantee that he actually keeps his spot on the side if he starts in the team and plays all 3 of those games in round 1. So on that basis, I'm going to bypass Josh Brown. I may still get him as potentially, another cash cow on the bench, And then maybe you can try and loop his score on field. If he has a big blinder in game 1 to kick off the season, you could do that if you've got a loophole non-playing player to do that. But I think he'll only come into calculations for me if I don't go for McDermott, put Whiteman in the wicket-keeping spot, and then put Josh Brown on the bench in the batsman category. But at this stage, I really rate McDermott over Josh Brown at virtually the equivalent price point. So again, even though Josh Brown has that triple game round first up, I've just got questions and queries over him actually playing all 3 games. But I'll probably make an assessment closer to the season. So let's move on to the next player, keep things moving. And it is someone that is in our team and we spoke of at length in the previous video, but we'll do so again for the interest of this video. And it is a super value option / cash cow because he is in that category, that price point. It is Darcy Short. So he's got a break even at 22 to start the season, which is pretty nice as well. And we know what he can produce over the journey. So he's got the round 2 double as well. So having him in your team on the bench means you're saving a trade virtually in not having to use a trade to bring him in for round 2. So that's also a bonus. So Short, he was recruited from the Canes and will prove a great combo with his namesake in Matt Short as one of the 2 openers for the batting attack for the Strikers. Hayden Carey will be on test duty, so is a smart recruitment by the Strikers. He did have a fall from grace last season, averaging a 15.3 runs across 10 games, which sees him at a bargain price point heading into the season. Has been one of the more consistent high scorers in SuperCoach across the years, however, proving lethal with a bat and pinching a wicket here or there as a relief bowler. He finished as the 10th highest scorer in the 2021-2022 season, which I'll bring up just here, as you can see there, and I'll show you the breakdown of what his scoring is. And he also finished as the 6th highest scorer in 2020 and 2021, 16th in the 2019-2020 season, and 1st overall in the 2018-2019 season. So you could probably say on the basis of that, the last season's performance can be viewed as more of an anomaly as opposed to the norm. And if he can recapture this sort of form, he'll be one of the biggest cash cows this season. So he, for me, I think he's someone that everyone has to have in their team, just considering what he can produce. New team, new opportunity, I guess less pressure as well alongside Matt Short, who has been arguably one of the better performing BBL players and BBL SuperCoach players over the past couple of seasons. He's just an absolute gun. And Darcy Short, maybe an opportunity there. Less pressure for him to, I guess, recapture this form that he showed in previous seasons. Also, as I mentioned, with the ball, may come in, depending on the lineup of the Strikers, could bowl an over or 2, pinch a wicket here or there, as you can see that he's done across the journey. So a very similar, I think anyway, role to what he had at the Hurricanes in terms of batting as a starting opener, and then coming in and pinching a wicket here or there as the sort of 5th or 6th bowler, bowling an over or 2. So look out for him, and yeah, I would be a lock and load on him 100%. Best yet with Short, of course, is he has the double in round 2. So as I mentioned, it's going to be very handy to save you a trade in not having to use one to bring him in for round 2. Let's move on to, I guess, the bowlers now, potentially. No, let's zigzag. Let's do that. Let's mix it up a bit. So we'll go to this guy that I've got in my team here, Swepson. He's got a break-even of 68, so getting up there. That's the only real knock against him at this stage. Does, however, have the round 1 triple game. So as we covered in our previous team reveal video, he had one of the worst years in the BBL in his, I guess, history, taking only 5 wickets across 10 rounds, which does see him at a 36k discount on his price last season. Has missed games due to national duties in the past, but remains to be seen if he is in selection calculations for this season. Unsure really of how he fits into the Heat bowling attack, having potentially been overtaken by the Heat's other spin option in Kuhnemann. So is one to monitor as to whether or not he is selected for the first game of the round for the Heat. But there is no denying he's a definite cash cow to consider given the Heat's round 1 triple game round and his cheap price point, of course, as well. But as I mentioned, with that break-even of 68, it does look quite high, but considering that he has 3, or at least multiple bites at the cherry, if he only plays, say, 2 or the 3, to eclipse that break-even, really will give him an opportunity to set in motion some cash generation early on. And that's the big appeal with him. I think the Heat, if they're going to be smart about things in terms of trying to keep their bowling attack fresh, considering they've got 3 games in the one round, I think they're going to be rotated very, very highly. So I think Swepson may play maybe 2 of the 3 games. But again, there's no guarantee he's actually selected come the first game. So that's the main query that I've got over him. He has traditionally been, pretty reliable as the number 1 spin option, but as I mentioned, has been eclipsed in recent times, especially last season, by Kuhneman, who's the other man that we'll look at here. He isn't in my team, Kuhneman, but I'll bring him up on screen to show you the breakdown. Comes in priced at 104k on the dot. Got a break even, however, of 100, so that there is pretty high even for a triple round that he has in round 1, of course. Wasn't the best scorer last season. He averaged only 24.7 from 9 games, and as mentioned, could be vying for the same spot as Swepson. Is a lesser attractive option to me anyway for a number of reasons. First and foremost, his higher price point compared to Swepson, his high break-even of 100, and the fact that he may not play all 3 games in the Heat's triple game round due to a rotation resting policy that I mentioned, where the Heat will enforce, you'd think, to keep their bowling attack fresh. So that's probably in line with Swepson, so that factor there is probably a moot point, but the fact that he's got that high break-even really does go against him, and the fact that he's at that higher price point, which means that you have less money to spread across your team to get those higher price players, as you can see there, that I've got in my team. So like a Sean Abbott, Tom Curran, Hardy, Nessa, Munro. So yeah, that's the other factor to keep in mind. But nonetheless, if he is indeed the Heat's preferred number 1 spinner, he is due some consideration. So keep him as an option in mind. Let's move back to the batsman side of things, and it's someone that I don't have in my team, and I don't think he will start in my team just because the fact that Darcy Short and Whiteman are better attractive options to me. It is Jack Edwards, priced at 62.5k, has a break-even of 40, but does, however, have the round 1 double. And talking about Jack Edwards, he's been in the game for quite a while, and if you've been a long-time SuperCoach BBLer, you'll know that he's long teased us with his potential without delivering much apart from a couple of glimpses here or there. Has been in decent enough form playing for New South Wales, and even morphed into somewhat of an all-rounder, taking 6 for 36, if you don't mind, against Queensland in the Sheffield Shield. So there is some question as to whether or not he's going to be given an opportunity to have a bowl at the Sixers if he is selected. But I think the bowling attack for the Sixers is pretty strong as it is. They are losing Dan Christian, who's, their traditional all-rounder. But again, the main query is whether or not Jack Edwards actually plays first and foremost. So didn't play at all last season for the Sixers, and most he's played in any given season is 10 games back in the 2018-2019 season. So he is largely still a fringe player, and once again might find it hard to carve out a spot in the starting 11. But if he does play early, might be a nice cash cow option. So is someone to keep in mind. But again, I think should be down the pecking order behind the likes of a Darcy Short, Whiteman, and so on and so forth. So let's move on to some of the attractive bowling options in terms of value and cash cow players. And we do have Tanveer Sangha. Does have a break-even of 27, and he's priced at 83.8k. And does, unfortunately, only have a double on round 4, but has come back to the BBL season after missing the entirety of last season due to a back ailment, but last averaged 45.1 SuperCoach points the season prior, where he looked quite impressive, taking 16 wickets in 12 matches. So let me just bring it up here, and you can see the breakdown. But of course, with the ball, he is quite lethal, as you can see there, taken 1 wicket, 2, 3 wickets, 3 wickets, 1 wicket, 2 wickets, and does have that dot ball bonus coming into his game as well, which is super handy, and the economy rate bonus as well, which as a bowler is bonus points to be had. So really do like the look of Tanveer Sangha, but in terms of him, I guess he's probably better viewed as a potential cash cow, knowing what he can produce at that price point. Unfortunately, the Thunder don't have a double, as I mentioned, until round 4, so can't really make the most of fast-tracking his cash generation, but nonetheless presents as a tantalizing prospect. So he is someone that I'm looking at very, very closely, and taking potentially the spot of this man who we'll speak of next in Peter Siddle. Is a little bit more expensive Sanger, but I think he probably has a better role, and I'll get into this reason why right now. So with Sids, he's got a break even of 48, but however does have a round 1 and round 3 double game round. So we'll be playing 5 games across 3 rounds, which is always an attractive prospect. I spoke of him last episode or last video, in the fact that he's taken the 11th most wickets in BBL history and would normally be a walk-up selection at this discounted price as a death bowler. Is super cheap, but should be viewed as more of a cash cow, as strange as that sounds, as his role and overall spot on the Gades side is up in the air after crossing from the strikers to the Gades. He does have Richo, Rogers, Sutherland, at the very least, all ahead of him as pace options at the Gades, so could struggle for full overs and arguably won't have the same death over role that he had when he was at the strikers. Combine that with his age, and you would think that he comes in more so as a relief bowler when the frontliners are due a rest. And off the back of that, something that needs to really be factored in here is the fact that bowlers in SuperCoach BBL don't get given the economy rate bonus until they've bowled 3 overs. So that could mean potentially less points for Siddle if he is seen as a 2-over player splitting with another relief bowler. So that's something to factor in. I think that would probably go unnoticed. So for me, I mean, he's in my side at the moment, but I'd like to see where he does line up. So closer to the season, I'm sure the coaches, players will be asked by the media as to how Siddle, and Siddle himself will be asked as to how he's going to be utilised. First and foremost, is he going to start in the starting 11 for the Gades? And then secondly, what role is he going to have? He's always been a death bowler. That's sort of his bread and butter. Does he bowl on the power play instead? Maybe. Has been hit around the park, especially last year as well at the strikers. Even though he was a death bowler, he just wasn't bowling the same quality that he had been in the past. So, I don't know. For me, he's in my team pending, I guess, availability and opportunity to see how he actually shapes up and settles in the Gades lineup. So if he isn't in line for a game, or if he's only going to be given, 2-3 overs a game, I think I would much prefer to go for someone like a Tanveer Sanger, who has bowled death overs in the past, can bowl the power play, all that sort of stuff, and was super quality. And I had him in my team going back when he was playing the season prior, and was great quality. So I think he'll be a first choice bowler compared to Siddle. But again, Siddle's got, obviously, he's taken the 11th most wickets in BBL history, so that's nothing really to be sneezed at. So yeah, Siddle's in my side at the moment, but we'll wait and see as to how things shape up. Alrighty, so that is how my team is looking. Let me just refresh that. As you can see, the other thing that I did change, you might notice if you watched the previous video, the other change that I've got here is Rashid Khan coming in to my side. And the main reason being is, we all know, like, Rashid Khan, if you followed BBL, he is one of the more lethal spin bowlers in the game. But the main thing is with Khan is the strikers, of course, have a double in round 2. And just thinking ahead, as I've always mentioned, you've got to be thinking 2 steps ahead, 2 rounds ahead almost. And it means that because the strikers have a double, as you can see there in round 2, it's a non-negotiable. Rashid Khan needs to be in your team. He's one of the best bowlers in BBL. And on a double game round, he could absolutely go bananas. So instead of not selecting him in my starting team and then having to use potentially 1 or 2 trades in order to try and afford to bring him in, I'm going to start him in my team, I think, just because, to save me a trade. And more than likely with Matt Short, considering Matt Short is one of the more expensive players in the game at the moment at 244.1k, I'm going to have to use virtually 2, if not 3 trades to try and afford to bring Matt Short into my side. So If he was cheaper, if he was gettable, if he was around about a similar price point to Rashid Khan, I would maybe take the risk of starting someone else. Maybe that's on a double game round and maybe another cash cow and going down that route. I think, considering that Matt Short is more expensive, I need to use as many trades as I can coming out of round one to try and afford him, I think. Matt Short does have a break even of 78. In a single game round, he may potentially drop. Keep in mind, though, that Matt Short is a dynamo with the bat and with the ball, and he was the highest scoring player in the competition last year. So even though the break even does look pretty high or high-ish for a single game round, as you can see there, he was able to smash that break even a few times there. So he, I think, is someone that isn't worth starting in my eyes, just because it's too much money to tie up in your team. Everyone's different. Some people may have you as the first selected, but I'm banking on him maybe falling short of his break even on a single game round, and then maybe dropping in price a little bit and allowing us a little bit more of a bargain. If we can, you almost need to save as much money as you can with in SuperCoach BBL, because the price fluctuations are quite volatile. Probably not as volatile as the AFLW fantasy for those of you who played that this year, but yeah, it's something that kind of needs to be kept in mind. And I think if he does go over the break even, does score quite well, doesn't matter. I think, I'm willing, as I said, to use a majority of my trades to try and get Matt Short into my team on the double. And yeah, that's pretty much my thinking. And those are really the only changes that I've had since the team reveal video. And that rounds us out for another episode of SuperCoach Edge and all things BBL SuperCoach. Hopefully we've gone through and identified enough value and cash cow options to help you construct your lineup heading into the season. But before we sign off, as a bit of a thank you for tuning in from start to finish, we will be unveiling the code to one of our first leagues that we're going to be running for you kind folk that tune in and follow our work. So get your pen and paper out, or just screenshot this. It is the code to our first league, and it is the SuperCoach Edge Power Drive, League number 1, and the league code is 283105. So we've got 20 spots in this league, so jump in. Hopefully there's a spot there for you by the time that you watch this. But of course, if you do like what we're producing, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe. That would be absolutely awesome. As I mentioned from the top, we are looking to hit the coveted 1K subscriber mark this season, especially in the AFL season. But if you can help us get a little bit of a boost, a little bit of a leg up heading into the AFL season, that would be absolutely fantastic. And as always, let us know your comments, thoughts in the comment section below. Anything you'd like us to cover up as well in an upcoming episode, we'd be happy to cover off anything that you'd like more detail and research on. But until then, that's us for another episode. So as we always say, we'll see you same time, same place. We'll catch you then. Cheers.